Okay. Hi, and welcome to Ken's Veg Patch once again. Anybody that's been looking at these videos will realise that the last one was in March and winter was coming to a close, and I've been trying to make a video every month, but unfortunately I lost my voice for about 6 weeks, so this is the first one I've made since then. My voice isn't 100% right yet, but it's coming right okay. So there's been a major jump, so really what this one will be about is just a catch-up of everything that's happened. If you look at the garden as it was nearly the depth of winter, and now it's in full bloom, so I'll just, as briefly as possible, go through everything and you can catch up where we're up to. So, as you can see, there's plenty of greenery. The broad beans, these are the ones we sowed October last year, and they're well ahead of themselves. There's plenty of pods. We've been eating these now for perhaps 6 weeks, and they're just lovely. We're having them nice and small so that the beans are about the size of a thumbnail. These have been really successful. I've nipped the tops out. If you've ever grown broad beans, well, I've not nipped that out, but they get black fly at the end, and you just nip the top out and that's where the black fly starts. So I've nipped the tops out of all of those, so I'm quite happy with those. The carrots have done well. These are the ones we sowed in pots in the winter. Oh, that was damn near Christmas time. Transplanted them, and we've been having nice fresh carrots. The old ones that we stored overlap beautifully with these coming on stream. And just to save pulling the net up, I pull these. This is what we're getting, lovely nice finger carrots. Never peel them, just boil them and finish them off with a bit of sugar and butter. We'll be having these this weekend, so the carrots highly successful. This side I've got my winter carrots. It's a variety called Autumn King, and it's a very old-fashioned variety, but I've not sown these in rows. I've just sown them broadcast, and they'll keep us going now until we do the same thing again. And touch wood, we've been self-sufficient on carrots for about the last 3 years now, so fingers crossed the carrots and beans are doing quite well. We've just planted, these are the Swedes for winter, and the soil I've got, it tends to be lots of weed seeds. I use my own compost, and I suppose you get lots of weed seeds out of it, but what I do, I sow them in little small pots like this instead of sowing them direct, and then you just dig a small hole and tip the pot out. They transplant beautifully, put those in, and then when they've taken, these were put in last week, but you just sort through. That looks like the most healthiest, biggest one, so you just remove its companions, and you've got your one Swede there, and as long as slugs don't go and eat that, that'll be the one. They're very, very close planting, but I don't want huge Swedes, prize-winning Swedes. I just want a nice successions of ones about the size of a grapefruit at the most. So there'll be plenty there for us this winter. So that's the Swedes. The celery, I use a lot of celery in cookery, but last year I decided not to try and grow prize-winning celery again, and I just used the leaves for flavouring, and the stalks are a bit springy, but I use those for flavouring, and it's one that, especially for soups in the winter. So I'll use this, and then in the winter I've got another one in the cold frames, and that's Giant Pink. It's a very old-fashioned variety of celery, that, and you're really supposed to earth it up, but I'll grow that and use that, just the same thing, just for flavouring. So that's a lot of my winter stuff. Excuse me. You'll see here, these are sprouts, and over there in the other bed, those are also sprouts. But if you look in seed packets, there's early maturing sprouts and late maturing sprouts, so those are slightly earlier. These will start end of August, September, take me through to December, and then these 5 should take over end of November and see me through to March. So you really need to grow 2 varieties if you want a succession of sprouts. I've just took 1 or 2 red cabbage in because I think I might just pickle a bit, but you don't need a lot, but there's just room there, so that's ample for that. If I can just make my way over to this other bed, please, Mr. Cameraman. These are the parsnips. They're notoriously hard to germinate, the parsnips, and if you go to garden centres, they grow parsnips and sell them in pots. Well, that's impossible, because the roots grow down and then they bend. You've got to sow them direct. So with these, I just took a nice trench out and put some nice weed-free soil in. You sow them direct, and then these will have to be thinned out. I've just started on that lot there. The only problem I've encountered with that is that parsnips are the same family as carrots, Umbelliferae, I think, and you'll get carrot root fly trying to get these when they smell you've been pulling them out, and they are scented and very strong smelling. So when I do thin them out, I'm going to put a net cover over them for a fortnight or so to let them get away. Otherwise the carrot fly will be in, and then that'll be the end of the parsnips and be too late to re-sow them. So I'll have to really watch these till they get romping away. My leeks are in. These are at nice close spacings, but there's probably 40 leeks there. That'll be ample for our family for the winter. And while I'm at this end, I'll just have to get past the wheelbarrow, if you can excuse some. That's it. Oh. If you saw me at the Christmas time, I was planting potatoes in buckets. Now, we started eating those mid-March when there's no sign of new potatoes in the shops. And these are the buckets. You see the buckets behind me? These are the ones that they've actually grown the cycle and they've died down, the foliage has died off, and these are what we're using now. And I have a series of these which will keep us going in potatoes until the ones in the beds are ready. So this one's a bucket that we had at Christmas time, and it's a variety called Maribel. It's an absolutely fantastic variety because it tastes of butter. It tastes like new potatoes even without buttering, so hopefully there'll be. So that's the one there, and this is, oh yeah. So that's what you're likely to get from one bucket. Nice. Well, that's quite interesting really. They're nearly all, they're all owned. They're quite large ones, which I pick the big ones out and probably use those for chips, let them get a skin on, but these will eat them as new potatoes. And I'll probably be using these this weekend. And what you do, they've not seen daylight, but leave them exposed on soil like that just to get a skin on. And boil them with the skins on, some mint, and then when they've cooled a bit, the skin will just come off in your hands. So that's the new potatoes, very successful, keeping us going nicely there. But always, I'll just cover those up. One, I don't want them to dry out and get too hard a skin. And two, they'll go green if you leave them in daylight for more than about 2 days. So I'll sort those out after. But so up to now, we're eating new carrots, new potatoes, and then we'll go and have a look at the cabbage plants. I'll just move this if I can. You can probably see from there, there's 4 beds of potatoes. Last year I grew 4 varieties, but with this one called Maribel, I'm that impressed with it. It takes care of most of my needs. It takes the place of a waxy potato, but it's buttery, it's good for baking, new potatoes, it rarely falls. So I've 3 beds of those. I saved my own seed, which is going against all the rules really. I've saved my own seed potatoes, and the one that's flowering now, that's a steamer, and that's like a run-of-the-mill one that I know if these are a disaster, I always have plenty of. It's a big potato, but it's not as tasty as these, but that'll do my requirements. And then if I do need any small waxy ones, I'll just buy some Charlotte that are probably imported, but you do taste the difference when they are fresh dug. But That's just the odd time I won't sell the potatoes. So the potatoes are romping away. We've just had plenty of rain recently. They've really roared away. The downside of all the rain we're getting, of course, is usually this time of year you can hoe and you get rid of your weeds, but the weeds are everywhere. So you can't have it always. Cabbages, you like to look at this. This is not a glorified big cage, but this is just a cage parked above, no room to put this. This is Hispy. They're just spring greens really. And there's 30 odd there. And I'm pulling every other one out and eating those, and the others should swell up and make little sweetheart cabbage. There's 6 plants here of ballhead cabbage, which will make nice semi-white cabbage for coleslaw midsummer, where you can't really use a Hispy. And at this end I think there's probably either 6 or 8 cauliflowers, which they'll all come together at once, but I'll harvest those and freeze them, and that'll be a long way to old jar cauliflower needs for the winter. I've got another batch coming on in the cold frames, which when I make room I'll let them grow, and it'll give us some getting towards autumn. We'll just have a quick look over here at the asparagus, which I've mentioned in other videos. I did buy it, I think it cost me 50p a punnet, selling it off, and it's thrived. It was last year, but this year it's going really well. It's still too early to pick it, but you can see it's thriving, nice long sorts. But the only thing is, in the northwest of England here, it's always windy, and I'm just in the throes of making a cage, because if you see it's rocking itself loose in the wind, and that's not going to help at all. So I'll make some kind of temporary structure just to stop these fronds rocking about, and then that's going to build the strength up. It's been heavily manured, and next year we should have a nice light feed, and then hopefully it'll keep us going for a long time. Behind it you can see there's a path there, supposed to be, but I'll have to lose weight to get down there now. The raspberries are giving me a good feed. We're picking 1 or 2, but what I'll do now, especially now we film them, I'll pick so many a day and freeze them, because you never get a huge pick all in one day. But I'll keep freezing them, and then when I've probably got 2 or 3 pounds of raspberries, I'll defrost them all and make raspberry jam. But that way you've got a big dollop of raspberries when you want them. Same thing's happening with the strawberries. If you want to home in on there, Mr. Cameraman, you can see these are really coming fit and strong. I'll probably have a good pick this weekend and freeze half of those, and then by next weekend the bulk of the others will be ready, and I'll probably have 5 pounds of strawberries and make, I usually try and make about 12 pots of jam out of it. That's like a pot a month. So, but they've grown really well. This is an interesting one, because just these 6 plants, these are ones called everbearing, everbearing, and they'll fruit, not dollops of fruit like this, but they'll fruit all the way till November, just enough to give you a dish of strawberries apiece every weekend now. So that's my jam taking care of me strawberry and my raspberry. My herbs, you'll have seen these in the past, they're on the floor, but I've elevated them now and they seem to be appreciating it. They're getting more sunlight and a bit less water, so I'm very pleased with that, especially this flat leaf parsley is gorgeous this year, and this has grown really. Shame you can't smell that on the camera. I could smell it all day. It's a spearmint, it's absolutely gorgeous. I've been eating that with the broad beans and serrano ham, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The onions, now these, there's in this bed, that bed and that bed, there's 3 types of onion, 2 types of shallots. I'm not labelled them because I'll be able to recognise them when they do ripen up, but if I just walk down here, these are definitely shallots. I think these are the banana shallots. And if you saw the other videos, you saw us harvesting them last October, so these will be ready August or so. They're making nice heads now. These are white onions and these are red onions. Now why I'm identifying these were both from onion sets. And they're very convenient onion sets, but they're notorious for well, going to seed. It's called bolting in onions, and there's a classic case here. Can you see? That's an onion going to seed. It's called bolting. When that happens, all you've got to do is just pull it out. You don't want it to put all its strength into that. And there's another one there. Can you see? That's, just notice that now. That's not got as limited there. But the only thing is, the onion will make a double onion now, and it won't store very well. So any that's gone to seed, you'll notice they're a different onion. You need to use those first if you're storing them. I did leave one over here so everybody could see it, but that's going to have to go now. So that's a problem that you might bear in mind if you're ever going to buy onion sets, because there's 3 there now that they'll have to be used quite quickly. Whereas these were grown from seed and they're just running along quite nicely. This is a right problem video, this actually. I think it's hardly worth growing your own stuff, but when I was planting this, I said I was giving it plenty of space, and every year I do get rust on the garlic, and sure enough, about a fortnight ago, so the first pustules are called, coming on the leaves. I don't know if you can see that, Mr. Cameraman, but those are pustules of leek rust, and it's gone right the way through the crop. I've done everything that I possibly can according to the books. I can't really do more. It's got a wide spacing. I've not wet the leaves. I've got as much air. I've had no host plants about, but it's still come back. It must be just the area, and I might have to resign myself or look out for some varieties that tend to be resistant. But the only thing is, if you look down at the bases, you can tell, but that's the thickness of the stem. And if you imagine that's the top of the bulb, I think there will be nice plump bulbs. It's always a shame to get this, because with garlic it always has a growth spurt right at the end of its growth cycle, and it's missing out on that because it's struggling. But they look plump enough, and I think there'll definitely be enough garlic to keep us going. We'll have a 12-month supply of garlic, so it's not the end of the world, but it does demonstrate that gardening is not so much as sitting back and enjoying it, but it's just damage limitation most of the time. Anyway, step this way. Got the runner beets in there doing nicely. They were planted direct. They're growing away nicely, but we've had a lot of wind and they're not so bad. They've recovered a bit, but they did take a battering in the wind. Lots of broken leaves. These are climbing French beans. They're not as weather resistant as that, and they won't really achieve the full height. The one called Blue Lake, and but we will get plenty of beans off them. They've been up for freezing and we never buy any anyway, so that'll keep us going. But we have plenty in the greenhouse, which we'll go and have a look at in a bit. I'm just going around the cold frame, Mr. Cameraman, but you can stay there if you want. Oh yeah, in the winter you saw me sowing spring onions and beetroot in modules. Well, spring onions are eating those nicely now. The beetroot, getting just like that. Beetroot, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous like that. You don't want it much bigger than that, but we're getting plenty of that. So we've got tomatoes in the greenhouse, beetroot, spring onions, there's lettuce, which we don't eat a lot of lettuce, but we're surviving on our own salad now. I've just seen something else as well there. That's a beetroot that's gone to seed, and this one's called Bolt Hard. It's not supposed to bolt, but it has done. So if you see that in a beetroot, you know, well, you're never going to eat that. So that's another thing you need to watch for in beetroot. So that can go in the compost heap. So that's the spring onions and the beetroot, the lettuce. Garden peas, I'm really pleased with these. The only thing is, this is a bed I've manured, and this is one that's called Douce Provence. It's a French variety, very sweet. I think douce means French, sweet in French, and it's probably Provençal sweet pea really, but it's only supposed to grow to 18 inches tall. That's 18 inches is just under ½ a metre, should be down there. And this is, I've had to put extra sticks in there, so it just shows how it can, it says on the packet, you know, ½ a metre, but we've got it, 1.8 or so, but they're a gorgeous pea. They're nice, small, semi, petit pois, but absolutely gorgeous. So I've been eating those for the last 3 weeks, and they'll probably keep us going another 3 or 4 weeks. And over at the end of that bed, I've got not monster, sugar snap peas. They'll take over until I've got another lot of peas up at the other end of the garden behind the sprouts, which will take us. So hopefully we should have garden peas right through the summer. If you come over here now, Mr. Cameraman, the courgettes, we put those in. It's quite cold in this area, so I put them in with the cold frame lights on top. They've grown well, but now unfortunately, it's always a problem. They're not courgettes anymore, they're mini marrows, so they've all got one of those on. So if I was to leave these on, it'll inhibit them throwing more courgettes. That one's not got any more, that one's trying. But you've got to get rid of those, so we'll find something to do with them, or just put them on the compost heap. But it's always sad when you see good food like that going. So the courgettes are very good, very pleased with them. And behind me, I was on about the potatoes I got in bucket. This is the next lot. These are all in buckets. So when those die back, these are the ones that will take over as they finish. And this is the last lot. These are only young yet. In fact, I've not filled them up with compost, but we'll have ample potatoes to take us through till August when the other ones are ready. So that really sums everything up out here. You just really progress report, but I suppose I'm quite pleased with a few problems. But I've had a major problem in the greenhouse, but we'll go and have a look at that. So we'll make our way to the greenhouse now, Mr. Cameraman. Right, we're in the greenhouse now, and it's making a lovely day. First time we've seen the sun for a bit. We've been short of sun for the last couple of weeks, and we've been eating tomatoes. Managed to pick tomatoes in May, which is very good for an amateur, and they've kept us going nicely. It's not hell out of the plants because they've been under lights, but I don't mind. They're all they can go because we've got the new lots taking their place. I have grown some early strawberries over here. They kept us going they're just finishing now. Now that the outside ones I've just shown you, but we've had strawberries for breakfast and strawberry flans for the last month or so. And I can actually smell them from here. They're quite aromatic, but they've been successful. The tomatoes are doing good, but I've had a real disaster. There's 3 varieties here. There's cherries, there's beefsteaks, and there's plums. Now the plums, I grow loads and loads, and I make like a thick puree, like a stewed tomato fruit, and put them in containers and freeze it. And it's like tomato pulp from Italian cooking in the winter, and I rely on the plums. But I've had a thing called Didymella. We don't need to go down that road, but it's a fungus that attacks the plant at ground level, and the stem goes black all the way around, and the plant can't breathe, and it just collapses. And when you get it, there's no spray or cure available to amateurs like me. So the only thing you need to do is get rid of it, burn it, all trace of it, all the string. And I've probably got 18 plants in here, and there was 2 went one night and 3 overnight another one. I think I've lost about 8 plants, so I've got gaps from where Mr. Cameraman's filming it. But what I've done, it's attached at ground level, and I've got to do something at this time of the year, so if you can get over here, Mr. Cameron, and see what I've done. I've scooped all the soil away that might be carrying the infection and put sterile bought-in compost around it, and that's acting as a physical barrier. And hopefully, well, nothing's happened since, and that was about a fortnight ago, so I'm hoping that's going to do the trick. And next year I might have to consider grafting my plants, or I'll show you another thing over here. Cucumbers suffer from a very similar thing. They can collapse overnight. So if you can walk this way, Mr. Cameraman. My cucumbers, this is a cucumber plant. You can you see the little baby cucumbers just coming on there now? Oh, there's a cucumber there, look. These only grow to about 4 or 5 inches long when they're mature anyway, so that's nearly ready. It'll be ready in 2 or 3 days. I grow these and transplant them into these pots, but there's no bottom in that pot. So I dig a shallow hole, put them in there when the ground's not too cold, when it's warmed up, and the roots will grow in this, grow through the pot with no bottom in it, and take nutrients from the soil. But this stem that's vulnerable is in sterile bought-in potting compost that's come in a bag. And touch wood, I've not really lost any cucumbers like that, so I might have to do that with the tomatoes next year if that happens again, but we'll sort it. But as I said before, gardening sometimes can be just damage limitation. That's the strawberries, tomatoes, cucumbers coming on well. I've got beans here, which you don't get lots and lots of them, but you can see can you see over there, Mr. Cameron? Plenty of nice French beans coming. We probably get 2 or 3 large handfuls every week, and lovely beans. But we've been having those for since March, and if you grow them outside, they won't be anywhere near ready yet because they're very susceptible to the cold. So everything's growing quite well in here. This is the hot. Anybody who's been in this greenhouse or seen the videos before, you know this is the hot place. These are the peppers. Peppers, I've got long pointed peppers, and we've got block peppers, and these with the labels on. It's quite interesting because, yeah, I have 3 types of chilli. I love growing it and I'm very serious, but it's nice to have a bit of an experiment this. So this one here is one called Angham. I bought the seeds for that. That's growing quite nicely, starting to flower. Now this one here, if you look on there, it says Tesco, and I bought some chilies from Tesco. They said they're very fruity and aromatic and not too strong. So what I did, we had most of them, but one I saved. This is this year, it's all happened January or so, and I dried it and I sowed the seeds, and it could go backwards because you shouldn't, if it's an F1 hybrid, I'm going to have lots of problems, but it's just a bit of fun. That's flowering, it'd be interesting to see. And this is one that I've got on there, our chili. This is one that I did the same thing with 5 years ago, and I save them every year, and it's a nice long red chili that doesn't burn your mouth out, so I always grow that, but that's just my little bit of experimenting that. That's the peppers. I've just noticed we're just getting fruit on now. You can't really get peppers too early unless you've got some fantastic facilities, but they're growing quite well and I'm quite pleased. Instead of using grow bags, I've got bags of compost. These are melons growing in here. Now if you look in a grow bag, you usually see it said it'll sustain growth for about 5 weeks, then you've got to start feeding. This kind of compost has got slow release nutrients and it'll feed for damn near 6 months. You can feed a supplementary feed, but I'm using those because I tend to be very busy and I don't always have time to think I must feed them, so these will keep them going. And melons, I might produce perhaps 20 melons in the whole greenhouse, so it's not a one that you're going to freeze or you want huge quantities of, so these will keep me going without all the worry. The tomatoes we were short of, that they died. I don't know, a lot of people don't know, but you can take tomatoes from cuttings. If you just walk backwards without breaking your neck, Mr. Cameraman. I've left, like Blue Peter, here's one I prepared earlier. I've left a side shoot on there. This is a side shoot of a tomato. If you just get your nail in, and like you should do, a nice clean click, that's got a little bit of the tissue from the axle on there. That's a tomato cutting. Back this way, Mr. Cameraman. All you need is some sterile compost. Bob that in there. Firm it in. I've got some here. When I did these when I realised I had a bit of problem replacing them now. Same with all plants. If you take cuttings, if you cover them with polythene, it stops them losing all their, it's called transpiration, all the water goes out. They collapse if they were outside of the polythene. These were done 7 days ago, so you can always tell when you start seeing the roots there, but these are nowhere near rooting yet, so I'll keep them covered up. But in true Blue Peter style, I shall, excuse my back, but these are ones that I took from cuttings 3 weeks ago. But the beauty of trying to replace the plants I lost, instead of trying to sow seeds, they'd only just be that big now. But if you look closely, these, with them being cuttings, they've got a truss on now. They'll be flowering next week. There, can you see? There's huge truss there. In fact, there's a fruit that's set when it was before it was a cutting, and you see, lovely root base. So that's made a tomato plant, but that will be ready for planting back out in the border. I'll probably wait while it gets about that big, but there'll be fruit on as I plant it. So these are off the existing plums that I didn't lose, so in another month I should have a greenhouse full of tomatoes, all bearing fruit, and it should make up for the shortfall. So it's something you can bear in mind, tomatoes from cuttings. And the last thing I'll show you, because I think I've got enough now really for just a progress report. These are the aubergines, and they're absolutely, I've never seen leaves as big as this on aubergines, but they seem to be absolutely loving that compost. Excuse me, but I know in that soil in the greenhouse, really, an amateur, you should change the soil in a greenhouse border every 5 years, and this is probably 7-year-old, so it is probably clanking with diseases and things, so I might have to think hard about it next year. But I know if I put the aubergines in, they would suffer, so they're thriving there and they're just starting to throw the first flowers. And we don't eat that many aubergines, so that's the current state of things. These are melons. With the melons, you've got to get a little brush and fertilise these, but there's been no female flowers yet, they're only male flowers. When you get a female flower, you can see the little embryonic melon there, but there's been none yet, so when they do start, I'll have to start fertilising them. So that is an update on everything that's growing. Hopefully the next video should be within 4 weeks or so, a July one, and then we'll have gone full circle. It takes us up to where we started these videos in August. I think we'll probably do one with some kind of harvest festival, all this stuff coming in. So that's an update, and I'll speak to you next time, and hopefully we shall have some good news as well as depressing bad news. So see you next time round.